What is going on, guys, and welcome. In this video we're going to do our first project with HTML and CSS, and we're going to make a responsive website over here like this, that if we go to the smaller screen you can see that it has a 100%, and you can see over here with these basic pretty much icons, right? The font awesome icons. And over here if we make it bigger you can see how it's actually floating to have a, let's say, width of 30%. So we're gonna pretty much create our first responsive website. It's gonna be very basic. However, it's gonna have a lot of useful information. We're gonna learn how we can actually toggle over here this menu, and you can see how it actually looks in the smaller screen again if we toggle it up and down. So let's just fire up our text editors and let's get to work. So how do we create a responsive website? Now, the shortest and easiest answer would be we're going to create a bunch of HTML elements and we're going to style them with CSS. Now, but before we do that, let's just get familiar with our workspace. Now, the one thing that we would want to do is actually create a folder, obviously. And in this case, I created a responsive website folder. This is going to be the name of my folder. And over here, you can see that I have the index.html within the folder. Then I have another folder within this responsive website folder. This is images folder, where I obviously have all my images. And you can see over here that this is this transparent image that I'm going to be using for my logo. Now after that, I have a font awesome folder where I'm going to be using the font awesome for our icons. And last but not least, we have a CSS folder that has a main CSS file that we're going to be using to style our page. Now, since we're working in the brackets, you can see that I have completely blank HTML, but you can see over here that I have the live preview. And we'll be using live preview just to see how everything works, right? So after that, I can use one of the brackets extensions, the HTML skeleton in this case, and I'm just going to say that I want a basic HTML skeleton. Now, I'm not going to go really crazy with these meta tags. I'm just going to leave them the way they are, you know, with a character set and with the viewports. However, over here, I'm just going to write English. This is going to be our language, and the title is going to be responsive website. That's going to be our name of the website. Pretty dumb, basic. I mean, we could name it later on coffee, because you're going to see that the whole website is obviously about coffee, but I'm just going to name it responsive website. Now, what I want to do right away is actually link it to my main CSS. So I'm going to create a link over here, and I'm going to say that relationship is going to be style sheet over here, and then it's also going to have a href attribute, and it's going to have a CSS main CSS, right? So after we have done that, let's actually have a look how we can add font awesome to our website. Now, if we go over here to our good old friend Google, and over here we would write font awesome, something like this, font awesome, and we obviously open up the first one that it's out there, first link that it's out there, and over here we're just going to make the screen a little bit bigger, and you can see that we have a couple of options, right? We have a start option, we have icons. Now before we do the start option, let me just show you what happens with the icons. You can have a bunch of icons, and if you click anywhere over here, you can actually check it out, what is the syntax and how you can actually, if you want, you can just copy and paste this. And there's obviously a bunch of cheat sheets that you can find, you know, if you're looking for something, you know, for names and all that. But what we're interested for now is actually get started, right? So if we click a link, they're pretty much saying us that actually the easiest way is to use this CDN that they're offering. So what you would need to do over here is type your email address, and they obviously would send you this link that you can just add to your web page, and you don't need to download something. Now we will going to be downloading, so I already downloaded, so you can just press over here download, and what happens, they send you pretty much a zip file. You're downloading a zip file, and once you open up a zip file, you have a font awesome over here, this folder. And what they're telling you is that you need to actually copy this folder to directory into your project. And obviously then we're going to be using this link. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to copy this link. I can right now close this one out and actually make this again bigger, and probably this one I would want a smaller a little bit. so it's not messing with our view. And over here, what I would want to do is actually create a link again. And I don't need to actually create a link, I just copied the link. So I'm just going to paste this over here and I'm going to close it out. And over here, I would need to say the path to font awesome, right? So over here, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to delete this over here. And what I'm going to say that this is going to be font awesome 4. Whatever 0 something, right? So now you can see that we have font awesome over here. And what we would want to do right now is actually have a look whether we actually have it, right? So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a span over here like this. I'm going to create a span element, and I'm going to say that class is going to be, let's say, I don't know, far home, right? Over here. And you can see this little icon. I'm going to zoom it in so we can see better. So we have font awesome, right? So it's added to our page, so it's really easy for us to start working. So let's go ahead and actually let's start creating our navbar. So the first thing we would need to do if we want to create a navbar is obviously start adding our HTML, right? So the first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a nav element over here, and within the nav element we're actually going to first place a button, and we're going to say that this is going to be div that has a class of button, right? It's going to serve as our logo, as our button, right? Over here, the toggle button. Now over here, what I'm going to say that within this div, we're actually going to place a link over here that is going to have a href attribute over here. And over here, we would be placing a image. However, for now, I'm just going to leave this empty because I want to show you why I'm actually doing that. Now, after that, what we would want to do is actually create a unordered list over here like this, which is going to be our navbar. And over here, our unordered list is going to have a class, and the name of the class is going to be menu. And again, we'll be using these two classes actually when we'll be actually dealing with a toggle menu. So just bear with me right now. They're not going to mean anything, but later on we're going to be actually creating our toggle menu and everything. Then we're going to be using these classes. And over here, I'm going to create a list item, and obviously I'm going to create them as a link over here. So I'm going to say that there's going to be a link over here, and right away over here I'm just going to create a icon. So I'm going to say span that has a class, and the class is going to be, in this case, far active, right? So I'm going to say far home over here like this. So this is going to be my span. So this is going to be my home. And over here, I'm obviously going to write this is home, right? And I'm just going to create a little bit more space over here. Now, what I'm going to be doing is right away, I'm going to add over here class active. And again, once we're going to start styling, you'll see why I'm doing this. But just bear with me, and this is going to be class active. Now, what we want to do right now is actually we want to create a couple of more list items. So I'm going to say, again, list item, and this is going to be a href over here that has a hashtag. And over here, again, we're going to create a span, and the span is going to have a class. Then the class is going to be fa info over here like this. And we're going to close it out, and we're just going to say that this is info. Now, again, I'm just going to create a little bit more space. And what I'm going to do in this case, I'm just going to select the line over here like this, and I'm just going to copy it 2 more times, right? And over here, what we're going to say that this is going to be a about over here like this. And over here, we're going to say that this is going to be coffee over here like this. And last one we're going to create is as a survey. But however, because people hate adding surveys, we're just going to create a far bomb over here like this. So something like this, right? So now that we're pretty much done with HTML to our navbar, we need to go to main CSS and actually start styling. Now there's a couple of things that I want to tell you how we're going to be creating this website. Well, first of all, our default view is going to be this one. So we'll be starting with the mobile. So I'm only going to be adding media queries once we're actually creating our screen bigger, right? Instead of actually starting from the bigger and then making media queries smaller, we're actually going to make media queries from the mobile. So this is going to be our original view. Whatever we're going to be writing here actually is going to be affecting our mobile view. not the whole page view, right? So that's the first thing. Now, another thing that I want to tell you that right away we're going to be using a EM values, not the pixels. And the reason why we're going to be using the pixels, because you obviously want to actually your elements to be resizing regarding how big is the screen, right? Or regarding how actually your customer, whoever is visiting you, your website, how he has set up the actual his preferences to his fonts to be viewed. Because if you're using set height or let's say width of pixels, it actually messes up how actually the page is viewed. So we are going to be using the EM values, not the pixel values. And before we actually just style the navbar, I want to add some classes that are going to be general for the whole document. And what I'm going to say that I want to select actually all the elements that I'm going to be creating over here. And for now it's just a navbar, but it's actually going to be the whole page. And I'm going to say that I want a margin 0, padding 0, and over here I'm going to say that box sizing over here like this is going to be border box, right? So again, this is going to affect all elements, not just the ones that we're creating right now, right? And after that we're going to say that we would want to select the body, and for our body we would want a font family to be monospace over here like this. So I'm going to say monospace, and after that we're going to create, and you can see that I messed up over here, I needed to add a semicolon. After that we're going to say that font size is going to be 100%, and again you can see that right now if I set it to 100% and then I'm going to be working with actually EM values, right, it's going to be really easy for me, right? I won't going to have to worry about the pixels or how they're going to be changing as the screen is changing. I'm just going to set the font size to 100%, and then I'm going to be working with the EMs. So here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to write that the line height is going to be 1.5 EM, and let's say the background color, the whole body, we're just going to make it something very boring like wheat, right? And this is really not going to be a video about how we should actually adding colors to the website. It's more like how we can actually make this website. Now, I also want to right away create over here this class that we're going to be later on adding, and this is going to be a clear fix class. And once we're actually going to be covering, I'm going to explain to you everything about it. However, right now we're just going to write clear fix, and we have a pseudo class before. And over here we're going to write a clear fix over here, and we're going to write after over here like this. And then we're going to say a couple of things that we would want to happen, right? First, we would want a content over here to be a empty over here like this. After that, we would want to be display as a table over here like this. And after that, what we're going to do is actually we're just going to select the clear fix after. Clear fix, and this is going to be after pseudo class again, and over here we're going to say that we would want a clear both, right? And again, once we get to it I will explain to you, but just follow along and we're going to get there in no time. And after that, what I would want to do is actually select a heading ones, and I'm going to say that all my heading ones are going to be like font size like 3 EMs, something like that. So all the heading ones that I'm going to be creating, unless I specifically say in some other paragraph or something that I wanted different, they're going to be 3 EMs. And heading 2s are going to be, let's say, we're going to say that the font size over here is going to be 2 EM. So here I have font size. I'm going to say that this is going to be 2 EM. And after that, I'm going to say that the line height for the heading 2 is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to say this is going to be 0.9 EM. After that, I'm going to say that all my H2s, all my heading 2s, are going to have a text transform property over here as well. Transform, and it's going to have a text transform of uppercase over here like this. And the padding is going to be 0.5 EM. So I'm going to write padding 0.5 EM, right? So this is pretty much we're dealing right now with a heading 1 and heading 2. Now we're pretty much done with setting a like general rules that we're going to be working with. And I think that it's pretty much a time where we can actually work with our navbar, right? So the first thing that I would want to do is actually create a nav, and I'm going to say that UL, and this is going to have a list style type none over here, list style type, and I'm going to say none over here like this. And once we set the list style type to none, let's actually jump and start styling over here this button and actual list items, right? So we go back to main CSS, and we would want to say that we would want a nav and UL, li, and also we would want a div that has a class button, right? Because that's what we created. And over here, we're going to say that they're going to be display, and they're going to be display block. And after that, we're going to say that the width is going to be 100%, because again, remember that we're actually styling for the right away for the smaller screen. So we're going to be starting from here, right? So this is how we want it to be look actually in the smaller screen. And over here, I'm just going to say a background color. And I'm going to say that the background color is going to be very simple. It's actually going to be 6 5s. So 555, 555, right? This is going to be our background color. So after we have added a background color, the next thing what we want to do is text align. And we would want to have a text align center. And over here, we're going to write a font size. And we're going to say that the font size is going to be something like 1.2 EMs, right? So 1.2 EM over here like this. And after that, we're pretty much done with this, both of them with li and div button. And the next thing what we would want to do is actually style the div, right? Div button, right? So over here, I write div button. And I would say that I would want a height to be a little bit bigger. I'm going to say this is going to be 4 EM over here. And after that, I'm going to say that the background color is going to be red. Red over here. Not red purple. I want red. So this is going to be my background color. But now I can see that since I have created over here this height, right? Now I can go back to index HTML. And over here, we're going to add right away a image. So I'm going to write over here is going to be image. It's going to have a source. And over here, I'm just going to say that this is going to be not CSS. It's just going to be actually image. And it's going to be images. And over here, I'm going to go for my transparent cost one. And right away, what I'm going to do over here is height. And I'm going to set the height to be 100%, right? Because I want my image right away, you see, fit nicely right in here, right? I don't want it to mess around with it and start playing with margins or something like that. Since I have the height right now for my button over here, I can place it just by placing a height for 100%, right? Now, what I would want to do after that is actually start styling my links. So I'll write nav, ul, li, a over here. And now you can see that I'm affecting links, right? So and obviously the first thing we want is display block over here. And after that, we would want a text decoration to be none. So we go text decoration, none. And after that, we say that we would want a color to be red over here like this. And after that, we would want to probably have a height, right? So we're going to have height, and we're going to say that this is going to be like 3 EMs, right? So a little bit smaller, but still bigger than what we had before. And once we're done with this, let's just create a hover option, right? So we have nav, ul, li, a, and pseudo class hover. And over here, we would write that as we're hovering, we would want a border over here like this border, and this should be 2 pixels solid, let's say black over here like this. And after that, what we're going to do is actually create a border radius over here, and that's going to be 0.5 EMs, something like this. So let's check it out. So see what this is what we have, right? And after we style over here this hovering option, I actually want to style my class that is active, right? So remember this class. So I'm going to create over here, but I'm going to show you. Over here, you see this class over here, this active one. I want to style this one, right? So I go back to main, and I'm just going to again create a little bit more space for us so we can work better. And I'm going to say that I would want a color. This is going to be the font color to be green over here like this. And after that, we're going to say that a border should be something like, let's say I don't know, 0.2 EM over here, and it's going to be solid green over here like this. This is going to be our border, and the border radius is going to be, let's say, 0.5 EMs, right? These little nice corners, right? So now we have done that. Now you can see that this is our class, right? However, you can see that it's still, if I'm working over here, if I'm working over here, you can see that it's turning black, and I don't want that to happen, right? So what I would need to over here is I would need to add another pseudo class, and I would say that not, and over here we're going to say active. And you can see what happens is that I'm going to be hovering over. You can see that nothing is happening because I excluded over here this active class. So now we're pretty much done over here just with this basic over here, this basic our view, the smallest view that we had, pretty much the view that we have in the small screens. And now we're actually ready to go ahead and actually style it over here on a bigger screen, right? Because we obviously don't want it to be showing like this on a bigger screen, right? We want actually to be these list items to be in line. So what do we need to do over here? We need to actually create a media query over here like this. And I'm going to say that this is going to be media, and this is going to be screen. And then we're going to write what would be the size. And I'm just going to start with 600 over here, but we can obviously change it as we want. So I'm just going to write 600 pixels. And over here, I'm going to start creating the rules. And for the navbar, my rule is going to be that first I would want a nav ul li over here, and I would want them to be display over here, display inline block. So we go over here, we say inline block, and after that we would say that we would want a width to be like, I don't know, like 8 EM, something like this. So now let's check it out what we have. So as I'm making the screen bigger, you can see what happens, right? You can see how right away they all move to the actual side. However, you can see the problem over here that right now is everything is in that color, right? So what I would need to do right now, I'd actually need to go back over here and create a background color for my nav. What I'm going to say is nav is to have a background color the same that we had, right? So we have a background color, and we're pretty much going to set it to, let's say, to something like again, this 555, right? So I'm going to set hashtag 555, 555, something like this. So let's check it out what we have. So again, as we move it over here, now you can see how they all fall in line, and we can have a pretty typical menu instead of like what we had over here in a smaller screen, right? So this is going to be pretty much done for the nav, and we're pretty much ready to go ahead and actually start creating the header over here and actually start moving along with our website. Now again, we're not going to be covering right now this button. We're actually going to do it in a pretty much last section of our website, because that's going to include jQuery. So we just want to get more familiar with HTML and CSS first. So now let's go ahead and actually create our header. So we're going to go back to index.html, and we're obviously going to keep on adding our elements, right? So again, I'm just going to create a little bit of a room, and maybe I'm just going to clean up a little bit so we have a little bit better view over here. But in here, I'm just going to say that I would want to create a header, and within the header, I'm just going to create a section over here like this. And within the section, I'm going to actually create a over here a heading 1. I'm going to say a heading 1, and the heading 1 is going to say coffee over here like this. And after that, I'm going to create a paragraph, and the paragraph is going to say coffee over here is the best thing ever. So coffee is the best thing ever. So something like this. And after that, what we're going to do is actually we're going to create a link, and I'm going to give it a class of button over here like this. And after that, we're going to give it an href also, and this is going to be again a hashtag, the value. And over here we're going to write a click if you agree, right? Click if you agree. So something like this. Now after that, we're going to actually go to CSS, and we're actually going to start styling everything. So we need to actually go to CSS over here like this, and we don't obviously want to work with the big screen. Again, we just want to keep on working with a small screen first, right? So again, we after the class active, what we were going to do is we're going to create a rules for a header. So I use the selector header, and then I would want to say that the background image over here, this is going to be my background image, and I'm going to say URL, and this URL is going to have a images over here. So I'm just going to close it over here and see what's happening. Why we don't have it over here? Because we need to press over here like this. So images, right? So now we have images, and over here I'm going to be using coffee, or no, actually I won't going to be using coffee. Sorry, I'm going to be using beans, right? I'm going to be using beans over here like this. Now, after that, what we're going to do is actually we're going to say that we would want a padding over here for our whole header. I'm going to say it's going to be like 3 em, something like this. And after that, I'm going to say that it's going to be text align center. It's kind of hard to see text right now because we have a colors that are blocking. And after that, we're going to say that this is going to be color white. So color, and this is going to be white. And now you can see that our text is appearing. And after that, we have a border bottom over here, and we're going to say that this is going to be 0.5 em solid chocolate. All right, this is going to be our border. So now you can see our little border over here. Now we're done with that. Actually, let's go to header section and h1, right? So over here we have header, we say section over here like this, and we say h1. Now we can write also right away a header h1. There's no difference because we don't have multiple sections over here. So I'm just going to write header 1, and over here I'm just going to say font size because I would want a little bit different font size. I'm going to say that this is going to be 8 em. So now you can see how big it is. And then I'm going to say that this is going to have a padding on the top. It's going to be, let's say, something like 0.5 ems. And after that, I'm going to say margin bottom, right? So it's going to be margin bottom 0.75 ems. So now I can see that it's slowly but surely it's coming along. And after that, we're going to say that we're going to add a header, say the paragraph, right? This is the next thing we want to style. So over here, we're going to say again that we would want a text, let's say margin top, sorry, not text, margin top. We're going to say that we'll want a margin top to be something like 1 em over here. Then we're going to say that we would want a font size to be 2 em. So I'm going to use a font size, and I'm going to say 2 em. So now you can see that how it got bigger right away. And then after that, we're going to say font family is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be fantasy, something like this. And after that, we're going to say the line height is going to be 1.2 ems, right? So now we have our paragraph styled. And the next thing that we would want to do is actually, you know what, we forgot margin bottom, right? So we'll write over here margin bottom, and we would say that this is going to be like 1 em, right? So now we have also margin over here. And the next thing what we're going to do is actually style this a link that we have. However, you saw that I created a class, and I'm going to be adding the class to all of my links, right? So over here, I'm just going to say that text align is going to be center. Then after that, I'm going to say that a display is going to be inline block over here like this, inline block. And next thing I'm going to say that this is going to be text transformation to uppercase. So text transform is going to be to uppercase over here like this. And after that, I'm going to say that the background color is going to be red over here like this. And over here, we're going to say that the color is going to be black like this. And after that, we're going to say that margin is going to be 1 em. And over here, we're going to say padding is going to be 2 em. Right, so now you see how it got right away bigger. And border radius, it's obviously going to be something like, I don't know, 2 em. So we're just going to make it pretty round. and text decoration is the none. So it's going to be none. So now we got rid of this annoying underline, and pretty much we have our button. Now one more thing that I want to do is, as I'm hovering over it, I want to also add a pseudo class, right? So over here I would say a, and this is going to be button, and this is going to be hover, and over here we're going to say a background color is going to be black as we're hovering, and over here the color is going to be white. Color white, right? So now let's check it out. What we have, you can see as I'm hovering over it, it actually turns black with the white font, right? And again, if we go over here, you can see how our Navbar gets actually to inline block. But this one we actually don't want to change. We actually like it like the way it is. Therefore, we don't need to go over here to this media query and actually change anything. We can just leave it for now like it is. We will going to be adding some other sections that we're going to create, but this one is going to stay the way it is. And I think we're pretty much ready to actually jump to our block quote and create a block quote and style the block quote. The first thing we obviously need to do is actually go ahead and create the block quote that we want to style. So again, we're going to be leaving the header over here, and we're going to create a block quote element over here. And within the block quote element, I'm actually going to create a paragraph over here, and we can copy the block quote, or in this case I'm just going to write it, and this is going to be a little bit long because you can see that I'm not friends with the keyboard over here. So if this is coffee, please bring me tea over here. I'm going to say please bring me tea, and please bring me some tea, right? This is what we want to say. Please bring me some tea. And after that, we're going to put a semicolon over here, something like this. And after that, but if this is tea, please bring me some coffee. Please bring me some coffee, right? Something like this. And in the footer, we're going to actually write who said that. So we're just going to close this block quote over here. We're going to say over here the footer. And the footer, we're going to say that this was Abraham Lincoln, right? Supposedly that's what he said. So we're just going to go with this, right? So right now we have a block quote and we have a footer. So what we would need to do right now is actually go ahead and style this block quote, right? So we go to main CSS, and again, we don't need to worry about right now about our media queries, and we can just continue over here and actually say that we would want to style this block quote. So I'm just going to say that I would want a block quote selector over here like this. So now I'm selecting a block quote, and again, I would want a padding to be something like 1 EM over here like this. And then I would want a background color to be a little bit different. So I'm going to say background color, and it's going to be khaki, something like this over here. And you know what? It's kind of bright, so I'm just going to add dark khaki over here where it is, over here in this one. And after that, we're going to say that font size should be bigger. So I'm going to say font size, and this is going to be like 2 EM. So something like this. So now I can see how it actually got bigger. And after that, we're going to say line height is also going to be a little bit different. I'm going to say that this is going to be like 1 EM, 1.2 EM. And then we're going to say that we would want a text align center. And this is going to be pretty much it for our block quote. And again, if we change the screen over here like this, you can see how it looks pretty nice and it's pretty decent. And then there's no point for us obviously to mess around over here with our media queries. We can just leave it the way it is over here right now. And the next thing what we're actually going to do, we're not going to do any main section. We're actually going to do the footer, right? So the main section we're actually going to add last. So let's go ahead and actually in our index.html create a footer. So over here I'm just going to say that I want to create a footer element. And over here, I'm obviously going to add ID because I already have one footer. So over here, I'm just going to say that this is going to be a second, right? Not very original name, but just for this small website, it's actually going to work for us. So over here, I'm just going to say that I would want to place this in a H1 heading over here like this. And I'm going to say this copyright thing over here. So I'm going to say copy over here like this. And we'll find this one. And after that, we're going to say that we would want a make America drink coffee again, right? Coffee again over here like this, and we're gonna place some exclamation marks over here like this, and this is gonna be pretty much it for our footer. Now what we want to do is actually style it, obviously, so we're gonna have to go to main CSS and actually style our footer, right? So over here what we would need to do is actually click main CSS, and we're going to start actually styling a footer. Now what we're going to do again, we're going to go over here and we're going to say that this is going to be a footer over here like this, and we're going to say that this is going to be second, right? This is going to be footer that has a ID of second. And over here we can see that we're going to be working with this footer, and there's going to be a couple of things that we want to add. We're going to say that the padding is going to be 2 EM over here like this. Then we're going to say that text align is going to be center, something like this. Then we're going to say that the color is going to be red, right? So this is going to be our footer, and you can see how it is coming along. Now after that, we're going to say a background color. We're going to change a little bit the background color, and I'm going to say that this is going to be chocolate over here like this. And then after that, we're going to say that we're going to have a text transform to uppercase. So we're going to say a text, and we're going to say transform. This is going to be to uppercase over here like this. And after that, we're going to say that we're going to have a line height over here of like 3 EMs, something like this. So now I can see that we have a fuller line over here. And then we're going to say a text shadow. We're going to add some text shadow over here, and we're going to say that this is going to be a 0.2 EM, and then we're going to say 0.2 EM one more time. I'm going to say black, right? So now you can see that we have a pretty nice text shadow, and after that we're going to say a border radius, right? And again, it's going to be something like 0.5 EMs. So this is going to be our little border. Now that border doesn't, maybe you don't want it, so you can get rid of it if you don't like these little corners over here. So that's really, up to you, however you would want. That would be pretty much for a footer, right? So again, you can see that if we're making it bigger, it pretty much expands the way the same as Blockquote and a header was. So we're not going to be creating anything else. And for the smaller screens, you can see that it's lining up also exactly the same way. So I think right now the time would be that we're going to be just moving over here with this main section underneath the Blockquote and before the footer over here. Next, let's add a main sections over here in between this Blockquote and the footer over here. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm actually going to create like a little banner over here. I'm going to say section, and it's going to have a class, and the class is going to be titles over here like this, and it's going to be like a banner for each of our main sections, right? So what I'm going to do over here, I'm just going to create a H1, and that H1 is going to say 3 interesting things about coffee. And you will see that when we style it, it's going to be like a little banner, right? Coffee over here like this. And then next, we're going to create some more sections, but we're going to place them within a div, right? Because this is going to be holding all our main sections. So we're going to say div, and that div is going to have a class, and the class is going to be articles over here like this. And within that div, we're going to start placing the sections. So here I'm just going to say section over here, and within that section, first we're going to create a image, and I'm going to say that source, and the source is going to be over here from the images. And obviously here I would have to pick. So I guess I'm just going to go with, I don't know, like coffee beans, something like this, right? and over here I'm just gonna close it out. And after that, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna write over here this little attribute alt, and I'm just gonna say that this is gonna be coffee beans, coffee over here, beans, right? And after that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a header, and we're gonna say that the header is gonna say etymology over here like this, right? Because this is gonna be just a little bit information about coffee. And after that, we're gonna create a paragraph over here like this, and here we're gonna create a link over here like this, and over here we're gonna give this class that we actually created over here. You see this one? So we're gonna do the same. We're gonna say that the class is gonna be button, BTN, right? Because we want to style it right away exactly the same way. So I'm gonna say over here, click here, pretty much for more information, right? So as you can see over here already, I have this little button because I already styled it, right? And you can see that it's kind of jammed everything right now. But obviously, once we're gonna keep on styling, you'll see that we're gonna create paddings and margins and everything else. Now, where we would get the text, right? I mean, obviously, you can come up with your own text, or you can put a Ipsum text or whatever, something like that. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over here to good old friend Google, and I'm gonna say Wikipedia coffee. So I'm gonna say Wikipedia over here, Wikipedia, and I'm gonna say the Wikipedia coffee. This is what I want, coffee. And then whatever we're gonna find, we're gonna say coffee. And obviously here we would have to start looking for a information that we would want, right? So obviously I've been already looking over here, so you can see at the etymology. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy, let's say, these first two paragraphs, right? And I'm just gonna say copy over here, and let's just go back and where we have our paragraph, and I'm just gonna paste it over here. So now I can see that it's sitting over here. But you can see that I messed up a little bit, that I actually copied within my paragraph. So I would just need to fix it over here and actually get rid of this paragraph. Just cut it out and put it here. And let's get rid of this one, right? So now we have a proper paragraph that actually is going to be pretty much, we're putting two paragraphs in one. And let's check it out. What do we have over here? Now I can see that this is going to be our paragraph, right? Now after that, what we can do is maybe if it's too long, we can obviously always delete it if we don't like something. But I'm going to leave it the way it is over here. And it's going to stay like this. And what I'm going to do over here, obviously I'm going to copy this a couple of more times, right? So we have a couple of more sections like this. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm just going to copy this section. And I'm going to say copy, and I'm going to paste it a couple of times. And we're going to change our values, obviously. We won't going to have three equal sections. So over here, if we have coffee beans, what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to change the image first of all. So I'm going to say that I would want a, let's say over here, coffee mug. Okay, this is going to be our second image over here. And after that, we're going to say that we would want a different image over here too. So we're going to say that we would want a, let's say we have what, coffee over here like this. So let's check it out what we have. Yeah, that's the one that we want. So we want coffee. And obviously over here, we're going to change some stuff around too. We're going to say over here that this is going to be biology already. Or I'm sorry, this one is going to be biology. Over here like this. And over here, we're going to say that this is going to be a history. Right, and what we're going to do is we're going to add some new text. This is going to be history. So over here, what we're going to do is we're just going to delete this. And let's go and find where is our history. So here we have history. So I'm just going to copy this over here like this. Find where's my history. And we're just going to paste it over here. So now we have our history paragraph. And the last what we would need over here is this biology, right? So you can see that I messed up actually over here. So let's write over here history. And the last one we're going to put biology. So this is going to be biology. biology, and over here what we need to do is obviously find where is our biology. So where it is, it was somewhere here, so let's make it bigger. Here it is. Right, so again, probably just the first one is going to be enough. Here like this. I'm just going to copy this, and let's just delete this one, and then we're pretty much ready to go. So this one is deleted, and over here we have a biology text, right? So pretty much now we added our HTMLs where we needed, and over here you can see how our web page looks like, right? So we have over here this banner, then we have over here these 3 sections, and I purposely did it so we have a different size of a image and different size of the paragraphs, so we can actually see how we can work with them. Because I don't want to give you an example where we have 3 equal sections, and then it's really easy because once you style one, it's pretty much all of them are going to be the same, right? We're going to look at some challenges that come with different images and different styles of paragraphs, right? So let's go ahead to our CSS and let's start styling. So I will open main CSS over here like this, and in between the media query that we were working, and over here in between the footer and a block quote, right? Because we kind of a little bit worked the let's say other way around. We should have probably continued with the block quote, but we just added the footer because I want to show you something what is happening once we're actually floating the elements. So now over here what we will need to do is actually write the class, the titles. That's going to be the div, the banner div that I would want to select. Over here, this one, the 3 interesting things about coffee. And we have a class title, so I'm going to say that I want to select titles. And I would want a padding over here to be 1 EM, over here like this. Then I'm going to say that I would want a line height to be like 3 EM, over here like this. And after that, we're going to add a text align center, over here like this. And then we're going to say that we're going to text transform. Over here, we're going to say that we would want a capitalize, over here like this. And after that, again, we're going to add a background color chocolate. And again, you can see that I'm not a designer, so I really just keep going back and forth between some colors that just seem kind of, I don't know, appealing to me. So if you have better ideas, leave the comments or send me a messages or anything like that. I really would appreciate your input over here, especially with the colors, right? And after that, once we're done with these titles, let's jump over here and actually start styling this whole articles section, right? So here I'm going to say that I would want a class articles. That's going to be our class of our div. And I'm going to say that for the whole div, I would want a margin to be 2 EM. Something like this, right? So you can see what's happening, that all my sections are actually over here getting a margin all around them, right? I didn't need to do it separately one by one. I just set it over here all the way around. Now you can see over here that some of the images fit, well, I wouldn't say nicely, but they fit in over here because they're obviously smaller, and this one is sticking definitely out, right? So this was the purpose of adding the images like that, so we can see how we can actually fix that. But before that, let's just add actually the first rule for our articles section. So here I'm just going to say articles, and I'm going to say articles section, right? So each section that I'm working with, I'm actually going to be making the rule right now. So I'm going to say text align center, right? So again, as you can see, for all my sections, 3 of them, right away, all my texts are actually in the center. And that's the nice thing about making this div. Now, we obviously could have written over here section, but then it's obviously, if we have some more sections, then we need to deal with some classes or something like that, right? Now, after that, we would want to select articles section and paragraph in there. So I'm going to say articles, and then I'm going to say section, and over here is going to be paragraph. And I would want a text align justify over here like this. And then we're going to say that we would want a line height to be 2 EM over here like this. So now we have a little bit bigger line height. And after that, what we want to do is actually deal with these images, right? And it's actually very easy. If we write over here articles, that's going to be our div, and then I say that section, and the image in the section. And the only thing I need to do is actually say width, and width to be 100%. You can see right away what is going to happen with the smaller images. They are going to become bigger, or here like this, and the bigger one actually became smaller, because what we're doing, we're saying width needs to be 100% of the section where it is exactly, right? So this is going to be a very nice, neat thing how we can actually deal with this. And over here we're going to say border, and we're going to say radius over here like this, border radius, and we're going to say that border radius is going to be 5 pixels. So now let's go over here to our media queries and actually start obviously floating them for the bigger screens. Because what you can see over here is, as we're making the screen bigger, right, it's obviously doing the same thing as our over here, our banner that we created. But we don't want that. We actually want, as the screen gets bigger, we want actually to fit them nicely side by side, right, to create a floating 3 floating sections, right? So let's go ahead and actually create again a bigger bigger main CSS over here, and let's just start styling. So I guess I'm just going to leave the nav all the way on the top over here in our media query, and over here I'm just going to create a little bit more room so we can see a little bit better what we are doing. And obviously over here I'm going to start actually styling and actually setting rules for them. The first thing we would need to write is actually a selector. So I'm going to write articles over here like this. And then I'm going to write section over here like this. And then I'm going to say that I would want to float it left at, like you can see over here, at 600 pixels. I would want to float it left. And let's say that I'm going to say that each section is going to have width of, let's say for now, 30%. Now we're going to change that, but let's just say for now 30%. Let's check it out what happens, right? So I'm just going to save this over here. Well, not over here, actually over here. Let's just save this and let's see what happens, right? So as you can see that as I'm making the screen bigger, the problem happens over here that you can see that something is not right, right? Because over here that you can see that, yes, my articles have been floated to the left. However, because I floated them, you can see that they're pretty much sitting now right now within my footer, right? So obviously I would need to fix that, right? So before I even worry over here about these margins and the fact that they're not filling up the whole screen, I actually would need to fix this footer here first. And the way we would do that, we would go back to index over here. And remember when we created this clearfix class, and we would need to add over here this clearfix class to our div, right? To our div that holds our sections. Because when we are floating over here our 3 sections, actually the footer doesn't anymore recognize them, right? Because they're pretty much floated out of the flow. So over here we say clearfix, or here like this, and then obviously I would save it. And we go back over here, main CSS, to check it out, where was our clearfix. And you see that we added a class clearfix, which is I cannot find right now, over here, right? So we had a clearfix before, clearfix after, right? Before and after both had content, nothing, and display table, and just clearfix after had clear both, right? So clearfix after would mean that footer would actually clear both if we're floating left or right, right? So therefore right now everything is fixed. As we're sitting over here, we just need to refresh it over here, and you can see, right? You can see over here that footer is actually in his normal place, and now we only need to worry about the width, right? We don't need to worry about the fact that actually footer is sitting on top of our main articles section. So let's right now start actually dealing with the width. And with the width, I just want to show you a little thing that we can actually use our Chrome tools. So over here, if we go all the way to the bottom, let's just find out where's our article section, right? This is this 30% that we have been working with, right? So we're saying we wanted 30%. So let's use Google Chrome. We say more tools, and we say developer tools. Now the problem is, remember that right away as you do that, actually brackets live preview is gone, right? So we're going to have to save it and refresh it and all that stuff, right? That's the unfortunate thing. However, if you can see over here, this Google Chrome, right? But as I'm making the screen, look over here on the right hand side, right? It's actually telling us what is the width of the screen, right? So it allows us actually to work really easy with when we are actually wanna change some kind of width, we can actually see what is the width of the screen, right? Over here it says 704 pixels. So let's right now imagine that at 700 pixels, right, we would want all these, let's say, to be, I don't know, like 200 and I don't know, 20 pixels wide, and then all of them, these two margins in between them, should be like 20 pixels. So how we would get that with this percentage? Well, we would go to calculator over here, and over here I'm just gonna write that I would want my section to be 220 at 700 pixels. So here I would do like this. I would say 220 divided by 700 pixels. And what is the result? And the result is like this. So what I would do over here, I would just copy this number. And don't worry, the computer is going to understand what you mean by that. So over here, what we do is we go over here and we say width. And we copy this width over here, Command V. And we just add percentage. However, we need to obviously move the decimal point. So over here, instead of 0.31, we're actually going with 31, right? And after that, we said that we would want each margin to be 20. So what do we do over here? We just start a new one. And we just start a new one again like this. And we say that 20 divided by 700. And what is the result, right? And this is going to be like 2% something. So again, what we do over here, we just copy this number. This is the most important thing. We just copy, and now we can close this. And now we can actually close these developer tools also. And let's just go back over here. And we're going to say that the margin right for each section over here like this, we're going to say margin right. Margin right is going to be this number. And again, we're just going to move these decimals. So we're going to say 2.8% over here like this. And then we put a semicolon, and now we're going to have to save it and refresh because we obviously used the developer tool. So now our live preview is gone. So now you can see this is the problem now. Technically it's working. However, you can see that they don't all fit, right? And the reason they don't fit is because this one has a margin too, right? And we actually don't want this margin. So what we would need to do over here, we would go back to articles section, and we would say over here that we would want a articles section last child over here. So that would be the last section over here. We would say articles, and we would say section, and we would say pseudo class last child over here like this. And we would say that we would want a margin right to be none, right? So we're going to write margin right, and we're going to say none, right? So now let's check it out. Let's save it again, and let's refresh. And let's refresh again. And we didn't need to write margin left, right, none. Sorry. We needed to write margin right 0. That's why it's not working, right? Just keep on going back before between the nones and all this stuff. So let's just refresh. Now you can see that they're all sitting in one page, right? Nicely and neatly. And obviously you could have chosen different numbers. You didn't need to go 220. If you want to do a different number, you can obviously do whatever you want. However, remember that I purposely went with 220 and then I added 220s. So this one, all of them would be 700 width. Don't try to make this 240, each of them, and then say that you would want them to fit in a 700 pixel screen, because that's not going to happen. So what you need to remember that all of these values need to fit within your screen. So let's say if this would be 600, obviously I couldn't fit them if they would be 220 pixels. We obviously would pick a smaller number. We would say, I don't know, let's say that this would be like 175, and then we would need to calculate the rest of these margins over here. However, the nice thing that we have already these margins that has the whole div, right? Now there's a couple of other things that we would need to fix. First of all, you can see that again, the width over here of these images are different, right? You can see that these images are different, and also the text is, right? It's not the same, right? So what we would need to do, we would need to go back, and we would need to actually select the actual image. And the first thing that we would need to say is that we're going to say articles, and we're going to say image over here, section, section image, and we would want to say that we would want them to be specific height. And I'm just going to say that this is going to be 23 EMs, right? So what we're going to do again, we're going to save this, we're going to refresh, and now I can see that all of them are going to be exactly the same, right? And again, we can change the different sizes and all that. Doesn't really matter. You can pick however you would want, right? However, I'm just kind of giving this an example of what we can do in order to actually make them all appear the same. And now we would need to fix this text over here, because obviously we would want them to be shown exactly the same. So now we would go again back to the articles paragraph over here like this. So we're just going to say articles section paragraph, right? This is going to be our class, articles section paragraph. And over here, we're going to say that height is going to be 22 EMs over here like this. However, we need to actually also right away add a overflow hidden, right? So we're going to write overflow and we're going to say hidden. So whatever is going to be over this 22 is actually going to be hidden. So again, we're going to save it. We're going to refresh. And over here, you can see how they're all nicely exactly the same. Now you need to pick, obviously you'll see sometimes if you're picking, let's say, some type of number, you can sometimes have it half line, right? So obviously you would need to fix that and actually pick the actual width, right? The height over here. Then it's actually working. That you can see this line over here. So that would be one thing to actually look out for. But pretty much this is it for actually working with our main section, right? We're going to add some more icons in just a second. However, you can see that how we did it, that we actually created this banner over here. Then we had these 3 pictures. If we have a screen larger than 600 pixels, then they're floating to the left. Once they're actually going to the smaller screens, they actually fit nicely 100% to our screen. So you can see how easy it is to do that. So let's go to index.html and create our social media platform. So we're going to go all the way into the bottom. Just remember about the clear fix that we were using over here. And here between a div over here and this footer, we're going to create a section. Again, this is going to be titles again. So this is going to be like our little banner. So I'm going to say section class, and again, it's going to be class titles. So it's already going to be styled for us. And over here, what we're going to write, and let's go here and let's check it out. Where it is, right? This is where we'll be working. And I'm going to say that I'm going to create a H1 over here like this. And I'm going to say that this is going to be follow coffee on these platforms. Here like this. So now we have our banner, and obviously because they're the same color, they're obviously looking like one big thing, right? So over here, what we're going to do is create another div, and this is going to be a different class. We're going to say that this is going to be class, but this is going to be also class articles. So this is going to save us a styling, and over here right away we're going to write a clear fix, just because we're going to be floating, and also we're going to add a class small. So this is going to be the only class we're going to have to style after that. So next we're going to create a section, first section over here like this, and we're going to say that within that section, first we're going to place a link over here like this with a href over here of hashtag, and then we're going to add a class black, which is another class we're going to have to actually style it. And over here we're going to write that within this link, we're going to place a span, like awesome font icon. So I'm going to say span class, and over here it's going to be fa and fa Facebook. So this is going to be our Facebook icon, Facebook over here. And after that, what we're going to do is we're going to make it pretty big. So I'm going to say something like this, right? And then I'm going to close it out, close our span, and as you can see, this is my Facebook icon. Now, after that, what I would want to do is actually create a heading 2 underneath. Over here, I'm just going to say heading 2, and I'm just going to write that this is Facebook. Over here, pretty easy. And what we're going to do over here, we're obviously going to copy this, right? So over here, this section, we're going to create like 3 of them. So I'm just going to say copy. I'm going to create a little bit more room. We're going to paste this. over here, and we're going to paste it one more time. Paste it like this, and this one we're going to say that this is going to be Instagram, and this is going to be a Twitter, and over here we're also going to say, obviously we would have to change it to Twitter. So let's see, did it work? Yeah, it did. And over here we're going to do a Instagram, right? So where's our Instagram over here. So now we have 3 icons, and we have some text underneath, and we have over here again this little banner which says follow coffee on these platforms, right? So now we're pretty much done with HTML, and let's go ahead to our main CSS and actually style these classes, including small and black. And over here we had a class red that I actually didn't add because I would want this text to be over here red. So I'm going to say class, and I'm going to class red over here like this. And also I'm going to do it over here. I'm going to add class, and this is going to be red. And the last one also is going to be red. So that's my mistake. I should have done it with the first one and then just copy it. But, well, what the hell. So here we go to main CSS. And the question where we want to do that, I guess, in between article section and image, we can just say that class red. First of all, I guess we're going to say that color is going to be obviously red. And also I would want to do a line height, right? So here I'm going to say that color red like this. And obviously I'm going to say like line height. I'm going to give it like 1.2 EMs, right? Something pretty easy. EM over here like this. Now after that, let's actually style the class black right away. So we're going to say that class black over here, and it's going to be pretty simple. It's going to be color black, because I would want my icons over here, these social media icons, to be black. So again, another thing is that you can see that right now they're actually pretty much looking good over here on this screen. And the reason for that is because we already styled them as a section, right? We already made them pretty much a, like how we created our old sections, right? Because we give it a class section, it's actually styling exactly the same way. So then that's a nice thing if you actually create already one style. And if you add the same class, obviously, to these 3 floats, we don't really need to do anything, right? So we already have done our work over here, our media query. Now, if we would want over here, if we don't want to have, let's say, this look over here like this, we could obviously create another media query, right? How do we do that? We actually would create a media query for a smaller screen. So over here, I'm going to say media screen, and we're going to say minimum width over here like this, and we're going to say that this time it's going to be 200 pixels. And over here, we're going to select a class small that we created. And I'm going to say section over here, because I want all the sections that has a class small. And I would want to say that I would want to float them left, right? So you can see what happens. They right away floated left. Now, the good news is that we can actually use this width and this margin. And the reason for that is because when we were calculating this for 700 pixels, right? And we said that we would want them to be 220 each, and then the margins to be 20, right, pixels. However, because we're using percentages, even as our screen gets smaller, we can still use the same thing. So I'm just going to copy this over here like this. I'm going to say float left, start a new line, paste it over here. And you can see again, the problem is the last one doesn't want to do it because, again, the margin right, this one still has this margin right. So right now we already know that is a very easy fix. So we say small section over here, last child, and we would want that last child to have a margin right, and we want a 0, right? So right away they all fit in here. Now the problem over here, you can see this text, right? So obviously we probably would want to have a, let's say, smaller text. So what we would need to do over here, we're going to say that, let's say all the, let's say what it was, H2, right? So we would want to say small section over here, H2. This is what we were working with. And over here, I'm just going to say the font size. I don't know. We're just going to say that something like, I don't know, 0.5 EMs. Let's check it out. Well, that's too small. So we can probably go with 1 EM. 1 EM, right? So 1.5 maybe. Something that would actually fit, but it wouldn't mess our view, right? So 1.5 I think is going to be a good one, right? So what happens is that, again, we created right now this floating elements with a smaller screen, right? And obviously as we're going like over here, you can see that they still are floating, and the same as these ones, right? So the last thing that we actually need to do is to add our jQuery over here for this button, so we can actually pop this menu up and down, right? Even for the bigger screen or smaller screen. So let's go ahead and let's actually add our jQuery. And it's actually going to be very easy. We're just going to save for now this main CSS. We're going to go back to index.html all the way over here in the bottom, and then we're going to go to good old friend Google, and we're going to say jQuery over here, and we're not going to say slide toggle yet. We're going to say jQuery Google, and over here, once the screen gets actually bigger, you can see that have a Google developers, right? So we go over here to this link, and we find over here that this is the way how we can add actually jQuery to our project. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm just going to copy this script, and we need to place it all the way in the bottom of our body, right? So I'm just going to say copy over here like this, and we're going to go back over here. We're going to paste it, and now we have this script. Unfortunately, nothing has changed yet, right? It's still not working as a button because we haven't actually added some jQuery that we wanted. So over here, I'm just going to create a script over here, new script tags. And right now, I'm going to go back and I'm going to say that I would want a jQuery slide toggle, right? So what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to say slide toggle over here, not slide toggle fix. I would want a slide toggle. And we go to slide toggle over here like this, and then we find it where it is, and I think it was somewhere over here. So now you can see this is our function that we want to use for slide toggle. So we're just going to copy this over here, and what we're going to do is we're obviously just going to do it very easy way. We're just going to copy and paste it. But before we add our actually this slide toggle over here to our script, what I want to do is actually create a jQuery function that will actually make sure that all our code is running only when the page is loaded. So I'm going to say document, and I'm going to say ready, and then I'm going to say that this is going to be a function, and this is going to be open parentheses, and over here I'm just going to create a curly brackets. This is going to be our function, and now I can just go ahead. Again, I'm just going to make sure that I actually copy this, and I'm going to paste it over here. Now you can see that I have preset this click me, right, ID. So I would need to change over here to button, over here to this button, and over here we're going to change it to an list items, right? And let's check it out why we're doing that. We can just delete this, right? This was our comment. So I'm just going to save this, and we can obviously close this one over here, and if we refresh, you can see what's happening, right? You can see that right now it's working. And the reason why it's working, you can see over here that this is the button, right? So this is going to be that is going to be doing the toggling. When we click it, then the function starts running. And what is the function affecting? It's actually affecting over here this on our list items, right? So that's why we're able to do that. So even if we go, let's say, to the bigger screen, it still works the same way. And this is how we can actually add jQuery to our web page. So this is going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very guys for watching. And what I'm going to do over here, I'm just going to make this screen bigger so we can see our whole website, right? See how it looks when it's full view. Now when we have it actually on a bigger screen, you can see how it is actually working, how it is responsive as we're actually going around with our values, right? Over here you can see as I'm making it smaller, you can see how they're floating left and right. And you can see how actually it is so easy to make a responsive website.